World-class lessons from the real estate industry's top 1%, empowering agents to think bigger and do more to create life by design. You get access to exclusive interviews with top producing real estate professionals. Listen in as we talk about their journey in the business, best practices, and lessons learned. Hosted by Kiro and John Scipione.
I mean, one thing that we always say in our office is just action is better than perfection, right?
This is Light It Up with Lighthouse Residential.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Light It Up podcast. Super excited to have with us today Mr. Tarek Hassieb, who's actually from our hometown of Hoboken, New Jersey. Tarek's on pace this year to do 100 transactions, representing just about $40 million in total volume. And the exciting part is he's done it all in just 6 years in the business. Tarek, thanks so much, man, for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Well, we're happy to have you on. We know you'll bring value to our viewers. And we always try to bring someone on that can bring some kind of lesson or some kind of takeaway to the people who are listening to this. So thank you again.
No problem. I hope I can provide that. No pressure.
You know, first and foremost, I think it's interesting for anybody listening to this, and they're probably thinking, well, why would someone bring their competitor onto a podcast? And I have, and John has our own answers and our own perspectives. I'm just curious to hear what you think about that, Tarek.
Sure, I think that's a great question. And I think that the first thing that pops to my mind is competition is always great, okay? You never know who we're going to be talking to at any given moment, no matter the lead source, if it's an expired, a FSBO, a just listed, just sold, a past client. What's the probabilities of us talking to the same person at the same time, right? So, in fact, I have several accountability partners, right, and some in the same marketplace, and it's very rarely that we're in competition for for a listing with one another. So, I think it's always a good thing. We always add value by helping each other out. And then, and if I like you enough, I'm going to refer you the business if I can't get the deal, right?
Exactly.
If I can somehow make the connection. So I look at it as a completely objective perspective. And then, it's an end result. As long as we all make money, that's all that matters.
Exactly. And it's there's such an abundance of transactions out there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, if you asked me maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I probably thought a little bit smaller. And, people might think that if you do a transaction in our market that you've taken it away from me, then it's one less transactions that I can do. But, we don't look at it that way. And we really, love sitting down with people like you and sharing big ideas and things that will help us all progress. So, it's okay for people in the same market to share ideas of what's working and what's not working. Maybe you're not going to share exact lead sources and the exact secret sauce, but it's okay to share ideas of approach and marketing and that sort of thing. So that's, you're the first person we've had on the show in New Jersey, right?
Yep.
Or that was outside of our team.
Yep.
So
Which is
we're
awesome.
excited about that.
Funny story, Tarek. I'm not sure if we actually ever told you this story, but when John and I first started prospecting together 3 years ago, as I was making a call, he looks at my screen. He's like, "Oh, that guy, I've been following up with him for 3 years. He's still cleaning out his garage, isn't he?" I'm like, "Yeah, that son of a gun's still cleaning out his garage." So he was like, "All right, good luck, get him." So and that's the same way. So without further ado, Tarek, can you share with everybody how we actually met and how really this, power through accountability came through?
Yeah. So, accountability is a really strong thing. I really couldn't connect on it in the beginning because my goals weren't crystal clear. My hunt wasn't big enough. Okay. In the beginning, when you're first doing this, everything's like a fog. You're just trying to know your surroundings, kind of know the jungle so where to hunt, right? But connecting with, really good people and great agents like yourself, we all had the same goal. So what better way, is it than to connect with with people and build a strong accountability because we all had a greater purpose. We wanted more, more deals. We wanted more success, more income. So in order to do that, we had to build strong accountability. Like we knew that we had to strengthen our weaknesses, right? And so to build that accountability and find that like-minded perspective, and then just hold each other accountable and form the group, form the rules, form the accountability, the penalties, and I guess the pain. How much pain can you take until you actually accomplish something and do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting. It was amazing to watch us grow and then learn from each other. So that was probably the most rewarding and most valuable experience out of it all for me.
Yeah. So just a little bit of a backstory I'm going to add on that. The three of us had an accountability group with, let's say, two other people, right? We had Melissa down in Texas and Tom up in Connecticut. And the five of us would have to check in multiple times throughout the day on a lot of different levels. First and foremost, in the morning, we had to send a picture, a selfie, right?
Yeah.
To show that we were at the gym, as if people didn't know what a selfie was. To show that we were at the gym at a certain time. Sometimes we had to show the picture of the clock, and we had to show a picture that we were finished with our workout, or we would lose what, $500 at one point?
Initially, it was $1,000,
$1,000.
and no one missed.
We made it very strong. Yeah, it was the pictures, showing the proof of the workout. Then we had to write down our goals for the day, and then really strong affirmations.
Yep.
You remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we had to be on our Google Meet, like a Zoom call every morning, for what, 3 or 4 hours for our
4 hours, 8 to 12.
4 hours for group prospecting, which was really hard. I mean, there's a lot of people that start their calls at 8 o'clock, but then they sort of get sidetracked and start writing a contract or dealing with multiple offers and that sort of thing. And sticking to that was tough. And then in the afternoon, we had to send our presentation, right? We had to record
Before 8
ourselves
p.m. Yep.
doing the listing presentation on our phone and send it out to the group. And that was due by 8 p.m. or again, $500 fine.
Yep.
And
we later switched that to video by 8 p.m.
Yeah, 8 p.m. So I think it's just, and I was just telling you when we were talking about setting up this podcast that there are certain areas that I just listed where I've fallen out and or fallen off, and I need to get back into that sort of accountability. And I think it's an important thing to talk about. Accountability is either internal or external, right? Right. There are people out there, and I'm not one of them, that are fortunate enough to have really strong internal accountability, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could go to the office and work every day, but if I didn't have to pay a fine for not sending that script or go to the gym, I'm probably not going to do it. And that's probably why I haven't been to the gym in a bit. So, or as routinely as I should. Yeah. So, I think it's helpful to start these groups and stick with them, most importantly. And, to have really high levels of accountability and fines if you don't show up.
Yeah. It needs to hurt.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what I thought was really interesting is even if I wasn't in this accountability group right now, I found that what you really gain, the ultimate gain out of this is that it becomes a routine. And you said the magic word before, John, routine. Yep. Right. So if you can do that accountability until it becomes a routine where you don't need the accountability anymore, then you've just defined success for yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that's what I found. Like, I don't even think twice anymore. I'm not thinking about getting a fine. I'm thinking about just doing it and getting on with my day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's really cool about it. And it just becomes a no-brainer. It's become a part of me. And so that's how accountability to the highest level has helped me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you share around when, or specifically timeline, circumstances going on in the world when we started the accountability group?
Yes. So I think you and I, Kiro, came back from a Mike Ferry event. Okay. And we called each other up, right? And I said, hey, you want to just, I'm looking to form really strong, high accountability. Are you in? Right? And then we met at the oh my God, the diner that they're closing up uptown. What is it?
Flamingo.
Yeah, they
or
just
something
blew
like
it
that.
up.
Did they really?
Malibu.
Malibu, yes.
Malibu.
We met at the Malibu
Flamingo.
diner. Do you remember that, Kiro?
Yep.
Yep. And we met for like a brunch or a breakfast or a lunch or something like that. And, we started forming rules, talking about what your needs were and what mine were and what we're looking to accomplish and why, right? And then, how can we put this whole thing together and then put the right pieces in place, the right people in place, and then form a contract and then let it take fire. And, and that's exactly what we did. And I thought it was really cool because we went from talking about it to taking action about it and then, making money from it. So I thought that was exciting.
Well, anytime you have Kiro in your accountability group, you're bound to make a few bucks.
I don't have any
That's
of your
why I
dollars in my
signed up.
pocket. That's the problem.
I did book a vacation from his accountability money. I will tell you.
I hope you enjoyed it. You're welcome.
It's so important though. Like I think it sounds cheesy to somebody who's sort of on the outside looking at this and saying, do people really follow the rules? And until you have money on the line and a significant amount of money, because if the fines are $10, nobody's getting anywhere. People are just going to pay the fines left and right. But I'll tell you, man, when I had to be in the gym, I think it was 5 o'clock or 5:30.
We were in there at 5. You didn't
I think
pay
it was
for the gym
5:30.
for 2 months because you had beat the lady who came into the front desk.
So, yeah, that's a good story in itself. I think our accountability group said you had to be at the gym by 5:30 or you paid a fine of $500. And I was like, I will never pay $500 for not going to the gym. So I was there every day at 5 a.m. just to make sure that I was never late. And I got there before the woman who checks the badges at the gym. So I never actually joined the gym. I just would go in for free because she was never there early enough to check my badge. Until one day, I guess I was running a little late or she was a little early. And all of a sudden she's like, you're not a member here. And I was like, of course I am. But anyway, I mean, like you said, you do something long enough, it becomes a routine. And I think, we work in a crazy way like that. And it's affected all sorts of, aspects of our lives, right? Like, even talking to Scott, who owns this studio, we were like, Scott, put us on the calendar for every Thursday at 3 p.m. for a podcast episode. And he's like, do you have that many guests? And we're like, not yet, but we're going to fill up that calendar. And like now what's cool is, and I was telling you about this the other day, is that now me and Kiro are held accountable to have a high level conversation with somebody that's a top producing person in their field, like yourself, every single week, right? So we're, in a crazy way,
Doing this
you are still our accountability partners, I guess what I'm saying. Talk to us about some other ways though that you're holding yourself accountable, whether that's to your transaction goal, your financial goal, buying investment properties.
Sure. So, I think affirmations are a huge thing and writing down your goals. So you have to, at least for me, you have to make a personal commitment. So whatever that is however that's going to work for you, as far as, it being meaningful and purposeful, for what you're looking to accomplish, how that's going to click for you. Like if I don't write it down enough, it's not going to make sense enough for me because there's so many moving parts in my day that I'm not going to see it on paper. Therefore, it's going to be swimming around in my mind, and chances are it's not going to come to fruition, right? It's not going to materialize. So writing it down, taking it with me, putting a screensaver on my phone, reciting affirmations, having your admin hold you accountable, getting them involved, getting your family and friends involved. Okay. Yeah. I never quite put it on social media to get the whole world involved, but I think if I ever did that, the pressure would be definitely a lot greater. So, because I definitely look like an ass if I don't do what I said I'm going to do, right?
Well,
so
we're getting to that part. Hold on.
So yeah, so all that good stuff. I mean, I always feel like I always need stronger accountability because we're always developing, and as you get better, your accountability is going to get stronger, and as your goals get bigger, your accountability needs to be just as strong and effective. Otherwise, you're going to be, back at the level where you were before, and that's going to mean complacency. So, and I know with the way the market is, where there's less transactions per agent across the board, because the amount of money that we're making per transaction has caused us to be complacent. So we have to make our accountability even that much stronger, right? How many more people do we need to talk to get a deal done? So that's the way I look at things right now.
Yeah.
That's very well said.
It's interesting that you said to write it down. Do you truly write down your goals and affirmations each day?
I do, and not as much as I should be spending honestly more time. I write it down quickly, but I should really do it even stronger than what I'm doing it at. I am accomplishing the goals.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like by the end of the day, we don't have the time we think we have.
Yep.
So, and it's like, what can we do to accomplish more in the same time frame that everyone else is living in, right? That's my challenge, and I'm always looking to, work on that and develop that and become more efficient and more productive in that respect. So, can you suggest anything?
I'm not sure I have an ironclad plan for you, but I was just sort of connecting with you on a visual level. My wife always is just like, you're so visual. Like if we're hiring a contractor, I'm like, draw it out for me. What is this going to look like? But I remember when we were working together closely, you would always carry around a notebook, right? I mean, we're in a world of like, the Follow Up Boss CRM and all these crazy CRMs. And I'm the type of guy where, yes, I use the CRM and I type everything into the computer to follow up my leads. Yeah. However, I also do carry around the same sort of notebook, because if those names aren't in front of me and I'm not writing down like how I tried to reach them and how I tried to contact them today and tomorrow, then to me, it gets lost in the computer. Yeah. Are you the same sort of way?
It's the same way. Even if you write it in your book, it still will get lost, right? Yeah. Because the pages will keep turning, and those pages that turn become history. And unless you have a good follow-up system, it's if you have Follow-Up Boss or any other kind of CRM, which I have, I use a black and white notebook, right? Yeah. I mean, how primitive is that? I mean, back to like elementary school, right? So it's got to be on the same level, it really does. And it's however you prioritize it. If you have to keep writing it on the next empty page, the next blank page, it's part of the next chapter. You got to keep following up and keep doing it.
Yeah.
I want to take a quick step back for a second. One thing to mention, the typical person listening to this who's ever been in an accountability group or have had an accountability partner, they know that it probably lasts for a few months. Our group lasted 18 months strong, and that was all during COVID. Mm-hmm. The whole plan was
and just to add January. A note there, they're still going strong. We removed ourselves from the group to focus more on building the team than individual production. We didn't think it was fair to still be involved, but they're still going strong.
That's insane. Well, congratulations on being still insane. But the other part that was a takeaway for me, and just because I've been getting back into my own morning routine again, is that, and this sounds wonky because people on social media have been talking about it a lot, but hard times make for strong men or strong women. Good times make for weak men or weak women. The accountability that was set there was set so strict that you literally had to go against whatever your mind's telling you not to do. To the point when that would be a person that was in that group or would start joining the group that would start cheating a little bit, even like an inch, the whole group would go against that person and kick them out. It's like the lions would come out, and it's because they don't. If you're going out of your way to go against the grain, go against your own mind, telling you just sleep another hour. Really, do you need to work out? Send that picture from last week. You'll get away with it. Like your mind's fighting. You're fighting with yourself, and for someone else to like let that get them, you automatically don't feel like they deserve it. You want death upon them when they cheat, which is kind of crazy.
Well, you just want everybody in the group to be held at the same regard that you're held at.
Yeah.
Right? And to have the same standards.
Yeah. So Tarek, tell us about how you went a little crazy on that group chat. I'm just kidding.
How I went crazy on the group chat? What do you mean by that? No.
How was the accountability important for you in terms of like what lessons did you actually take away from it, from the way that it was structured during the time that we had it?
So at that time when we built that, it was during COVID. It was like way in the beginning when COVID first happened.
Before the rates
So
dropped.
it
So
was
for
a
three
very
months.
surreal experience. And, either we were going to cling on to fear, right? Or we were going to cling on to, our purpose or our what we, what we're looking to accomplish, right? And it was very easy to cling to fear and sit back and and collect. I don't know if that's the right word.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to collect, and I refused to. And I
Mm.
saw a lot of agents do that. I saw a lot of people do that. I refused to do that. I wanted to stick to what I was doing, and it was in front of me. I could have been like everyone else, but
Yep.
this was a time, right, to rise. It was a time to take advantage of you know a weakness in the marketplace where a lot of agents were not working, right? And that was the time that we built and strengthened our accountability. And that's the time I saw my most growth. And I wanted to capitalize on it. I
Yep.
noticed that the calls that I were making, the people I were connecting with, nobody was talking to them. It
Yeah.
was a ghost town, right?
Yep.
So how perfect was it that, COVID happened, our accountability happened, the market was like near dead. It was dead, wasn't it, at
Yeah.
one point?
Until the
Right?
rates dropped in May.
Yeah,
Yeah. It was 3 months.
absolutely. Yeah.
100%.
So that's when I surged and I soared and I connected on that and I thought that was just such an amazing experience. So I think that strength I've built strength from that and mindset. Even the books we were reading, things that we were doing, like it was just like a collective mastermind type of experience, and I really capitalized from it. So it was very rewarding for me that way. Like,
Yep.
honestly, how could you forget an experience like that? That'll always stay with me.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too is like, we all have to remember like this is a lonely business, right? Like not
Oh yeah.
to say it that way, but it to do the amount of deals that we were all trying to do, right? If you're trying to do 100 transactions, you're probably the top producing agent in your office, right? And there's a lot of tension, and then there's people who are like, I'm going to stay away from that guy, or he must have a
Mhm.
big book of business and all that, and you sort of end up on this island by yourself. So it really does help to connect with other people that have the same goals because you can't necessarily connect with the other people that are in your office, right? Because you're not talking about the same things, the same ideas, and the same passion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, I think that in all fairness, when COVID first happened and we were going through this experience, that we weren't really talking to many people, were we?
No.
Right? We were like alone at home, weren't we?
Yeah.
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, our group pulled us through that. So that's honestly that was a great, a great memory. So great experience that way. But you're 100%. We work home alone, and we'd have each other 4 hours for the day, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we even did the evening calls.
And the
Remember that?
weekends.
We'd
Yep.
log on. I remember being a pain in the ass and saying, "I'm making evening calls. Who wants to go on with me?" Right? Did
Yep.
you
Yeah.
give up on your goals today, or your goals this month? Where are you at?
Yep.
And by the way, if we didn't hit our monthly goal, we would pay a fine too, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and we were doing this all in the face of fear and disaster around us, right? So I thought that was pretty cool.
I think one of the things to touch on is that the group of people that you want to be around in those situations are people who are going to want you to succeed and love that you're succeeding, not compare or envy. And I'm going to put you on the spot, Tarek, but during COVID, you were able to secure one of your largest checks. Do you feel comfortable sharing how much your single largest commission check was?
Yes, I mean, I have no mind, I know no problem sharing that. So we ended up closing on a deal that, gosh, almost took. It was a commercial deal and ended up took it almost. I'm sorry, it almost took a year or two to close. All right, and it fell apart a couple of times. You know the deal, right? That's the typical realtor story. So I think it was. Oh my God, it was two. Wasn't it like a $200,000, something like that? I think it was above $200,000. Yeah.
He's made so much since then he doesn't remember.
which is great. But we've bragged about that time to so many people. But
Yeah.
it's because it inspired us. And we're like, yo, this is incredible. Look what Tarek did.
Yeah.
You know? But that's the kind of people you want around you, support you, and to essentially love that you're succeeding and winning, not compare or envy in your group.
Yeah, and I think that's a good segue too to tell the Vegas story. When we were all in Vegas for another Mike Ferry retreat, right? You had achieved one of your goals and one of your either transaction goals or monetary goals, and I'll let you tell the rest of the story. So you were on a hunt to purchase.
Oh, the investment property. So,
No, the Rolex. The Rolex.
the Rolex. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Rolex. Oh, that's
Yeah.
funny. So yeah, so I wanted a Rolex. That was one of my goals. It was on my dream board. I'd say it was on my dream board for 2 years. And I'm like, I know Kiro has one, right? And I'm watching him flashing around and a lot of other agents. And I'm like, gosh, what the hell am I doing? Like I don't have my, what I'm wearing, I think I was wearing a Seiko or something like that. I don't even know. Anyway, so
Casio. Casio.
yes.
It
Yeah.
had the calculator on it.
One of those solar watches. I did graduate to an Apple Watch, though. In all fairness, I don't know
Nice.
if that counts, but but anyway, we searched everywhere. Everybody knows that shops for a Rolex right now. You can't get a Rolex anywhere, right? You're waiting around everywhere. So I even dragged you guys out to every store in Vegas trying to find one, and there was none. Okay, so that was kind of depressing. So that made me even double down on me trying to find one. But when we got back to when we got back to New Jersey, and it was around my birthday, we came across a flagship Rolex store that that just opened up, and it was pretty surreal because it was a brand new store, and I came back from Vegas. I won some money over there, right? And I said, you know what? I'm using this money to buy a Rolex. I'm buying my damn Rolex today, right? So, and it turned out on my birthday that store opened up new, brand new to customers. It was interesting because the day before they had it for only prior customers. Okay, they had like a special event for prior customers, and they wouldn't let me in. And I'm like, well, when are you going to open up again? I have to get my Rolex. You have to let me in. As strong as I am, I couldn't bust through the bodyguards. They wouldn't let me in. So I came back on my birthday that Monday and ended up getting it. So that was a huge accomplishment because it's just the way things happened. It was in the universe. I put it out there, and the commitment was strong. My will was strong. And then next thing you know, it's on my wrist.
Yeah.
And here it is.
There we
That's
go.
beautiful.
Good timing.
That was a good segue. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I mean, we're at the Mike Ferry event. We were all accountability partners then. And we're like, Tarek, and like all that crazy shit happens in Vegas, right? People are always trying to pump somebody up. Like, like Tarek, what's going on? Like the old Tarek would have had his Rolex by now. And then all of a sudden he starts going, what do you mean? What do you mean the old Tarek? And you sort of play mind games, and we pumped you up, and we said, let's go to the store right now. And you're like, I'll buy the damn thing.
Yep.
And I remember we all got in an Uber. I think there was like 7 of us in the back seat. We take the Uber over to the Rolex store, and I don't understand how this happens, but it was COVID. And like you said, the store was empty. And
3 employees.
Every store was empty.
Yeah. And they were like, hold on, sir, we have one in the back. And it was like a lady's Rolex, and it was like shit brown.
Yep.
And they were like, she was the ultimate salesman. She's like, sir, no, it would look fantastic on you. And yeah, I don't know, but I'm happy you were able to get one when you got back, man. It looks.
Yeah. It was more of a not only just a sense of accomplishment, but making that upgrade that we need to make, right?
Yeah.
So, and always going up another level. And that's what it was really more about for me, and like part of being the best version of yourself. And it wasn't really about, glim and glamour. It wasn't really about that. It was more about accomplishment. You know what I mean? So
Right.
It had more of a deeper meaning to me.
Yeah, I think people who may hear us talking about this mid-session may think, oh, well, it's materialistic items, but that's not it at all. I think it's you had a goal in mind, and when you hit it, you upgraded, like you said.
Yeah.
And now the idea is to never look back and continue to upgrade your lifestyle and upgrade your experiences and upgrade your goals. And every time you look down at it, you say, yeah, I got this when I smashed my goal in 2020 or whatever it was.
It's all about the exposure too, right? Because now that he has a Rolex, he's never going to wear anything less than that. Now it's going to be an AP. Then after that, it's going to be I don't even know what Mike wears on his wrist, but
Yeah.
it's the exposure. You want more and you go hungrier, which is interesting because as you grow from a single agent to a team, trying to instill that same kind of accountability that you've put into yourself, how have you, as you're growing, new struggles and new challenges come up? So in the beginning, you had to only talk to yourself. Now that you're trying to coach other agents and bring them up with you, what are you seeing and how, what kind of accountability are you setting up that might be working that we could utilize, or what challenges are coming up with the accountability for team members?
As far as for my team or for me personally?
So you've mastered the accountability for yourself and you've experienced how it's transformed you. We've experienced the same. But when you have someone new joining your team and you're telling them this is the accountability you're being held to, the natural reaction is like, well, I don't want it that bad. Or can we make a certain adjustment? Like, it doesn't need to be 7:30 in the morning that I need to be here, or 5 o'clock wake up time. Can we adjust it a little bit?
Yeah.
What challenges have you been seeing with that?
Got you. So my biggest challenge is that you you can't expect someone to be like you, right?
My wife tells me this every day.
I was trying to turn them into a little army of men like me, right? And I was just like, and it just wasn't happening.
Amen, man.
It just wasn't happening. I'm like vomiting accountability and resources all over them.
Yeah.
And they're like slimed up and they're like, dude, I can't do this.
With good intentions.
My
though.
wife all the time is like, John, they're not you. They're not everyone is. I'm like, I don't understand why they don't want it that bad. And she's like, not everyone thinks like you. Not everyone does what you do. And not that what I do or what you do is correct. We're just preaching to everyone around us what we have had success with, right?
Sure.
And it's no, I stole your thunder there, but I was really connecting with what you were saying. It's, it's hard. You can't. You want to instill what's worked for you on everybody around you, but it's not necessarily what works for everybody else. So
Sure.
Are there levels of accountability within your team where they have to hit certain targets or goals or be certain places at a certain time, or?
See, it depends on how new the agent is, right? You got to remember in the beginning of the podcast, it was when we first started, we were just trying to understand our surroundings, right? So can you imagine a brand new agent? And then I'm throwing all this stuff at them, and then they don't even know their surroundings yet. They're like, what the heck is going on here, right? So overwhelm was a big issue. I think that was the biggest challenge for me. And to overcome that was to, get them, get them onboarded right, correctly, get them to know their surroundings, really get to know their personality style, right? Get to know, what they're looking to accomplish, the role that they're gonna take on, right? And then how we can help them, how you can help them help you, right? So if we don't empower them to be successful, then we will never be successful, right? So, and that's how we have to, that's how I got to look at things. But I don't have a big team, right? So when you spend a lot of time that way, it's going to take a lot from my personal production, right? So that was my second challenge, right? And then the third challenge was how are you going to get them leads, right? And the only way to do that was to keep producing, right? Yeah, keep producing. My personal production needs to be up there, right? It needs to I need to perform at a high level. Otherwise, these guys aren't going to stick around.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. So when you put all that together, that was like a bag of challenges there that I needed to overcome.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that dynamic, you're trying to move on and you're learning new territory while you're trying to teach them the territory where you started. Right. So, and it kind of conflicted there for a while, but, it meshes at one point, as long as your intentions, are good, and you're a force of good, and you're working together as a team, I think that you have a better chance than not. And as long as they're sticking around and they're seeing what you're offering value, they're not going to go anywhere, right? Yeah, because they see those agents that are falling off. They see those agents that are not producing, the ones that are hanging around the office and not making any money, right?
Yeah.
So, would you rather be making money or just sitting around, right?
Yeah.
So Would you rather be busy or productive, or just saying that you want to be productive, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
What's the saying? It says the pain of regret weighs tons, the pain of discipline is ounces.
I
Yeah.
That's
like
a
that.
good one. You like that one? Trademark
I
it.
like that.
Hashtag let it up.
Yeah.
All right.
it I have to give you credit, man. It's there's so many teams out there, and I won't name names, but Keller Williams. Um, uh, I can't tell you how many agents over there are just like, I am the CEO of the John Smith team, and you look at that agent's production, and it's less than 20 transactions last year. So, you know, from what I know about you, you're still, you know, on the ground, pounding the pavement every day, actually doing what you're instilling within your team. So
Mhm.
that's huge, man. I mean, it's 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 rare these days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think that right now, what I put out there every day, and I still haven't reached it, but I'm looking to break the $1 million mark in earnings, okay, personal earnings, like net earnings. Haven't hit that number yet. And I hear a lot of agents who are top producers say that is one of the hardest things to do when you first when you first break your first million, right? So haven't reached that point yet. But in order to do that, we got to really break that down and see, how many people do I need to talk to in a day? How many contracts do I need to get? What's my closing ratio? And am I really going to do this? How am I going to triple down on this commitment, right? And how many affirmations or goals how much accountability do I need to incorporate to really make this happen,
Yeah.
right? Besides just saying it, but just backing it up with action. So every day I say, right, I'm going to take at least 30 contacts a day, right? I'm going to get 10 listings a month, all right? I'm going to get 100 deals, and I'm going to make $1 million. Every day I write this twice a day, 3 times a day, all
yeah,
right? So let's see if I get it, all right? You got me on video now,
you'll
so
get it, man. I know you, because
I cannot show up.
I've been there for the months that you've taken 15, 16 listings.
I was literally
so
thinking the same thing.
for
Yeah.
you to hit 10, I think you're sort of selling yourself short, to be frank.
Yeah.
Maybe,
But-
maybe.
But I think what you said there is important too, and sometimes this is something that I get lost in when you talk to people that are outside of our business. And I again, I say this often. I hate to use the word blessed because everybody says I'm blessed, but we truly are blessed to be in a business where you can actually reverse engineer your goal, right? I mean, if you truly have a goal and there's a strong why behind it of I want to make $1 million or I want to make 500,000 or 2 million, whatever it is,
Mhm.
you can easily just back into your goal, right? So you say, hey, my average check is, $10,000. That means I need to do this many deals. And to do this many deals, I need to talk to this many people.
Yep.
And to talk to this many people, I need to put in this many hours. And that's it. It's as easy as that, right?
Yeah.
The easy part is not putting in, the hard part, of course, is actually committing to that and doing it every day.
Yeah.
And, I forget the exact quote, but you're getting paid for the things that you're doing behind the scenes, right? And that's pounding the phone and prospecting and the lead generation. And people see the transactions go up and the transactions close, but what they don't see is all the work you put in to get
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
The takeaway for me there is just we're truly blessed to be in a position where you can just back into any number you want to, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when I talk to people that are in other industries that are not commission based, I'm just like, yeah, all you have to do is put in more time. And they're like, well, I put in more time and maybe I get a bonus or maybe my boss realizes it.
Yeah.
And again, I think we all have to take a step back sometimes and just be like, holy shit, the sky is literally the limit. And that for me is the big upside in this business, and it's also the downside, right? The upside is that the sky's the limit. You could just put in as much time as you want.
Sure.
The downside is I have to remind myself sometimes when I go home and I'm around family and friends and my wife that every
Mhm.
time you turn this phone on, there's money in there, right?
Right.
And I have to just remember to turn it off a little bit sometimes, John. Take a step back. Again, I've turned this into a therapy session. And no, but so let's talk about that though, Tarek. How do you, because you're an intense dude, and I think Kiro and I can think of many times where we were prospecting with you, either in person or on a screen, and we had to just like take a step back for a second. We were like, holy shit. Like, you were just yelling at somebody or getting really passionate or I don't mean yelling. I don't want to, blow you up, but
Passionate is the right word.
There you go.
passionate, competitive, passionate. How do you turn it off throughout the day, and how do you just focus on what you're working on at the time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think that this is all such a learning experience for us because, at the end of the day, if we're not growing, we're dying, right? So, and it's like you're going to be wrapped up in that process, right? And you're going to be performing at a high level. How do you turn it off, right? So, and that was a tough challenge for me, okay? Because I came from zero, and I was always in survival mode, so I didn't really know how to turn it off, right? And then I got to learn and appreciate and love things more than just real estate, right? And then things that were more meaningful to me. I think just it's kind of very hard to turn it off. I would call it turn the volume really low. Okay. I don't know if it's turn it off.
I like
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So turn the volume really low. And then when you wake up in the morning, you turn it up again. Okay. So, and then you get to spend time on the things that, mean the most to you, because I don't want to live in regret, right? I don't want to say that I could have, would have, should have. That why not enjoy, life and the process at the same time? Who's to stop you from doing that, right? It's the same way that we prioritize our business. We should be able to prioritize, our personal equity and things, right? So.
Love that.
Talk to us a little bit more. Like some of these agents say, "Oh, I'm 24/7. I'm available." Talk to us about like how you manage your time. Like, are you in the office at certain times? Are you, always working on the weekends? If somebody says come over for a listing appointment at 8 o'clock, will you do it? How do you work your schedule that way?
So if I don't hit my goal, I'm gonna find a way to make it happen and still do my personal time. So as at night I try to shut off by like 8 o'clock. Okay, 8, 9 o'clock, let's say. The last call, I remember when I first started, I would call people until 9 o'clock in the evening. That's how crazy I was. 9 o'clock in the evening, 9:01. I wanted to get my last call in. I would make it, and I'm like, yeah, I got the appointment, right? I don't do that anymore, right? Because I think I turn off a lot of people that want to spend time with me, right? They'd probably run away from me. Yeah, but it's tough. I've learned to take a day off over the weekend, okay, and then take some personal time. It's just a respect for yourself. You know what I mean? You can't railroad yourself, because if you do, you're going to railroad other people, right? So I think that, and people will let you know, right? That the people that love you and support you will let you know. And then they're like, oh yeah, I thought you were too busy for us, right? And that kind of just hits home, and it's like, you got to really, you got to really incorporate it and make it, prioritize it just as much as your business. And that's the biggest challenge I have. So I used to be 24/7, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and I just, you can't burn the candle on both ends. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I remember,
at least for me.
I remember in the Google Hangout when we used to make the prospecting calls, 2 different events, and this just goes to show how strong the accountability group was and how strong you become. Tarek had a plumber go in his apartment while he was making calls, and the whole time he was still making calls. All you hear in the background is da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, shh, shh. He's like, when do you plan on hiring the right agent for the job of selling your home? And the guy's just going ham in the kitchen.
But most agents would be like, I'm sorry, I have something I have to take care of at home.
Yep.
I'm going to take today off and tomorrow just to make sure it gets done correctly. Oh, and then the 4th of July is coming up, so I'll see you guys on Tuesday. It's
beautiful. And then there was a story with Melissa. Melissa was on her way to the evening prospecting, and her car got broken into after one of her appointments. Instead of her complaining, she left it, went to her house, made it on time, and she's like, it's okay, bag replaceable, time making money. No, it was perfect. I should edit that part out.
No.
Throw it in there for fun. Time replaceable. No, but
I remember that.
It shows your dedication, and it's just, most people would stop everything, right, and say, nope, I got to take care of this. But it's just, I think for Melissa's example was
her commitment was so strong.
She joined us for our night session of prospecting.
Yep.
And after she made all of her contacts, she was like, you guys want to hear something crazy? And we're like, yeah. And she sent us a picture, and it was a smashed window on her Mercedes, and they stole her purse and her pocketbook and all the stuff that was in it. And I don't know if people still say pocketbook. And and she was, most women would have freaked out and said, I gotta cancel and I'm out. But she was dedicated to the group and the accountability and all of that. But it shows that, nothing that's happening in your life usually, right, with these, aside from some extreme events, is so important that you have to stop everything you're supposed to be doing to manage it. So
yeah, I think the best answer for that is schedule what's important for you. Schedule it, and schedule it and plan it and get it in the books. That way you don't mess with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm having dinner with my wife and her family tonight, and I was like, send me a calendar invite. She's like, can't you just be there? And I was like, send me the calendar invite. And she's like, everything with you is so transactional. And I'm just like, I don't want to forget. And, I try to put everything on there. Yeah. But, it's
I'm the same way.
I think there really is I think people who get into this industry have to realize that it's not a job, it's a lifestyle, if you're going to do it at the highest degree possible. Yeah. And I think that's honestly what I'm thankful for, is that, it's not something that turns off at 5 o'clock. I'm really, if you look at it that way, I'm thankful that I can keep going from 5 to 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Or as our lender, Chris Gallo, says, like he's got 4 kids. He signs off from 5 to 8, but he comes back on from 8 to 10:30. And he's like, that's when I get most of my emails and all that stuff done. So I think, people who are looking for work-life balance, you're not going to really find it here if you're trying to do, a high level of business. But I don't necessarily believe in it, right? Like if you're trying to lose an immense amount of weight or trying to train for a triathlon or do, an Ironman or something, like there's no balance. There's not. It's going to be out of skew, but that's okay. Yeah. Because what you want is such, a high level of success, but you do have to schedule the other things in there though, or you'll get yourself in trouble.
Definitely. Yeah.
The stricter your schedule, the more freedom you get. And Brian Tracy said, if you think about it, your most valuable asset is your earning potential, and your more scarce resource is your time. So as long as you're being intentional with the time that you do have, because everybody has 24 hours in the day, that's the biggest thing. With all the conversations we've had this week, and with 4th of July right around the corner, the one thing that I've realized that's been a big wow is every time you're growing, there's new challenges and new obstacles that come in your way. Always. It's like 100%. Never ending. For example, Tarek has done a couple of big commercial deals, and whenever I have an issue, I'm asking him about this. I'm like, hey, what should I do in this kind of scenario? Because it's a new obstacle. And what I've learned is that when you're faced with a new obstacle, your solution and your answer is proximity. Finding the people who have experienced it and not trying to reinvent the wheel, and simply just getting in alignment and finding out what the answers are, because you don't need to have to struggle through it. For new team members joining your team, you mean the best of intentions by wanting to share what's in your mind and theirs as fast as possible, because it hurt from learning what you needed to learn to actually seeing it in a form of a check, right?
Right.
So you want to limit that pain for them.
You want to speed up the process.
Exactly. But they don't, it's not the way that people work ultimately, but it's all about proximity, being around those people that have already been through those challenges, those struggles, those obstacles that you've been through. And that's how you expedite that process. And that's ultimately what I miss about our accountability group the most. And that's why you forgot you're writing your goals, because you guys are now in an AA meeting, not an accountability group anymore, because you left.
I joke with our agents on our team, the buyer prequal, right? It's the script that you should use when you talk to a buyer before you go out and show them a home. Yeah. And it's simple questions like, are you working with another agent? Have you committed to a buyer's agent? Will all the decision makers be at our appointment? Yeah. when is your current lease up? These types of questions, right? So you can figure out, exactly how qualified they are.
Yeah.
But I jokingly say to them, I'm like, these are the ways that I've gotten fucked. And I don't know if I should be saying that on here, but I'm like, these are the ways that I've gotten screwed, right? And but that's exactly it, right? And each time I get screwed because I don't say something or I forget to ask if there's a wife involved in the decision, I show up to an appointment and I get screwed, right? So just to touch on upon what you said is I sped up the process. I'm speeding up the process for the people on our team by giving them a script that is based on all the things that I've learned.
Yeah.
And we've learned. So,
Mm-hmm.
just another way that I looked at it, but
Which is good.
100%. I agree.
awesome, man. Well, Tarek, we really, really appreciate you spending some time with us today. I think people will find this, super helpful when they're trying to, hold themselves accountable or start an accountability group or
Mhm.
find some other people. Just in closing, are there any suggestions out there for anybody who's trying to, maybe set up an accountability group or hold themselves accountable at a much higher level or at the same level that you are at?
Sure. Just try to find people that are better than you, more productive than you, so you could learn from them. Like Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what better way to do that than connect with those people, right? But I also think it's the commitment that you wake up in the morning with. And I was thinking through this while you were talking. Each day we have a choice, right? So when I wake up in the morning, I can choose to live a life of complacency, right? And I could just go through the motions, right? Or I can live a life of of a superstar or a super productive agent, a super productive person,
Yeah.
a successful person, right? So which one are you going to be? Which one are you going to commit to when you start your day, right? What are you going to think about before you go to bed at night, right?
Yeah.
Which one do you want to be, right? And if you are going to do if you are going to be a super successful person, then you have to do super successful things, right? So, and then you really have to think that through, and that's a commitment that you have to make. But if you can support that with accountability with those people, then you're doing a great thing.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best advice I could think of right now.
Yeah.
But learn your surroundings, right? Learn your surroundings, know the structures, learn your scripts, learn how to have conversations with people, right?
Yeah.
So about real estate and be as skilled as possible. Because while this market changes, and if you are a new agent and you're coming into this, you have to be super skilled, okay?
Yeah.
And unless you're going to
Yeah.
join a team, okay, you're going to get slaughtered, and that's just the way it is,
Yeah.
right? So and so you got to learn as much as possible. So soak it all in. Join something.
Proximity.
Listen to podcasts. Learn your scripts. Talk to successful people. Just know more than where you are right now. Learn as much as possible. Read a book. Okay.
Any particular podcasts you would recommend to anybody in the real estate industry?
Well, this is the first one I'm on, so I think I would recommend this one.
Bam!
You have so many of them out there. It's going to be your personal connection. When I first started, I started at Liberty Realty, and I'm still here. But I just flipped through a magazine, and I'm like, who's this Mike Ferry guy, right? And I see that you can download his app, and you can listen to things, listen to his recordings, and that's how I started. And I listened to
same way, man.
every single one. I'd walk my dogs, I'd work out, I'd listen to it, and they're like, everybody's like jamming the tunes, and I'm like, let me rewind this again. How did he say to talk to this person? So it was pretty cool to go through to think back and start from square one. And I just remember the things that I did. I learned as much as possible. That is so super important. You have to educate yourself. You have to, improve, learn your skill set and improve from there, master it, so how to, just, earn your piece of the pie.
I'll never forget. I'm going to share a quick story with you. Kiro and I had told ourselves that if we hit X number of transactions, I can't remember how many it was, that we were going to rent a Lamborghini. And just because we had both never driven one before. And, you know, once you experience that, you sort of get your mind thinking in different ways. And we went down and met with some Mike Ferry agents in Naples to watch the Superstar Retreat or production retreat remotely. And we had to go over to Miami for another event. And so we rented this Lamborghini, and instead of putting on like, you know, like some sort of music you would want to be seen in a Lamborghini playing, we were listening to the listing presentation on
Is it mine?
No, we were listening to Mike do the listing presentation. I'm like, you know, this is how you attract women to your Lamborghini.
We're gonna put the video right in here.
Yeah. But anyway, it was another example of accountability and just a cool experience. So thank you, man. If anybody wants to reach out to you or get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that? Is that call, text?
You can call me at 732-874-3999 or go to teamtarekrealestategroup.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time today, and we really appreciate it.
This was fun. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.